listen to the silence of space. Tonight, we will fall asleep to stories about the space station and those who work there. Just close your eyes and let the voices from NASA take you to the stars.
Houston, we have a podcast. Welcome to the official podcast of the NASA Johnson Space Center, episode 15, Astronaut Photography. I'm Gary Jordan, and I'll be your co-host today, along with Megan Sumner, Public Affairs Officer for the Astronaut Office. Megan, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, Gary?
Doing great. So, Megan, today's episode is a little bit different because we had a conversation with four astronauts in space. We talked with Randy Comrade Bresnik, Joe Acaba, Mark Sabo Vandehei, and Paolo Nespoli. All of them are astronauts aboard the International Space Station for Expedition 53, which started back in September after Peggy Whitson, Jack Fisher, and Fyodor Yurchikhin departed the station. Comrade and Nespoli were already up there, and they were later joined by Acaba and Sabo, as well as Alexander Mazurkin.
That's right, and we talked to all four of them live, so we brought in some social media questions real time for the astronauts to answer.
Yes, thanks to you. We talked about astronaut photography for the most part, how they take pictures of Earth and what they see and the sort of emotions that view brings up. But we also talked a little bit about the spacewalks going on this month and education in space and as well as life in space. So, with no further delay, let's go light speed and jump right ahead to our talk with the Expedition 53 crew. Enjoy.
T-minus 5 seconds and counting. Mark. All launch commit lights are correct. There she goes.
Houston, we have a podcast.
Hello, NASA TV, Facebook Live, Ustream, wherever you are watching. Welcome to a very special episode of Houston, We Have a Podcast. So if you're unfamiliar with the podcast, this is where we bring in NASA experts, scientists, engineers, astronauts, all to tell you the coolest stuff about what's going on here at NASA. So today we have a very special episode. Of course, you can see us on camera, and this is usually an audio podcast, but also we're going to be talking to space. This is not the first time we've done that. We've done it about 2 months ago with Jack Fisher aboard the International Space Station, and we're going to do it again with some astronauts, except not with just one. We're going to do it with 4 astronauts. Randy Comrade Bresnik, Mark Sabo Vandehei, Joe Acaba, and Paolo Nespoli. So I'm not going to do this alone, of course, same as always, same as before. I have a co-host with me, NASA Public Affairs Officer for the Astronaut Office, Megan Sumner. Megan, thanks for being here.
Thanks. Happy to be here. Excited to talk to them.
Awesome. So, Public Affairs Officer for the Astronaut Office, not the only role you've had here at NASA, right?
Yeah, I've previously actually managed our social media accounts here, the Johnson Space Center accounts and the International Space Station accounts. And now I am working supporting the Astronaut Office for appearances that they go out and do, and also the media support. We have media come and talk to them before their missions and do interviews and media visits and things like that.
Fantastic. And so I think that's the reason you're the perfect person to have as a co-host with me today. It's just because, first of all, you know the astronauts that we're talking to today. You've actually worked with some of them in the past, right?
Yeah, so Joe and Mark, who we'll be talking to today, were actually the first 2 astronauts that I got to work with in this role as the Public Affairs Officer for the Astronaut Office. Yep. So I'm really excited to get to actually talk to them in space.
Awesome. But then also, you ran the social media accounts here at the Johnson Space Center for a while. So that's another part of this is we are on Facebook Live. So if you have any questions that you'd like to send up to the crew, Megan is going to be monitoring those questions real time. She's got her phone right next to her, and we'll be asking some of those questions to our 4 astronauts today. So the topic of today's conversation is astronaut photography. So what's that all about?
Oh man, the astronauts take the most amazing pictures from the space station, and it's just an amazing view that most of us will never get to see in our lifetime. And thankfully, they are willing to share that view with us through social media. Easily, they can share it out to the whole world of what that's like. And not only that, but they're sharing with us what they're doing in space and a little glimpse into their life, the science they're doing, all the work they're doing on board. So it's so cool to be able to see that perspective.
Absolutely. I'm very excited for this topic because it is one of the more visual things that we get to see of what the astronauts do on the International Space Station. Obviously, they're doing science all the time, and we have crew members that are constantly working various experiments, and just recently they've been going out and doing a few spacewalks, so they have maintenance tasks that they regularly do. But right now, we're actually going to be talking about astronaut photography. And actually, right next to us, we have some of the equipment that they practice on whenever they're doing some of the to actually practice for taking photos of the Earth. So it looks like our astronauts are actually getting set up here, just like they do for any public affairs event. So we're going to be talking with Mission Control soon and getting that started. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them below. So.
Yep. We're taking your questions on Facebook Live. I'll be watching and asking the crew. So get your question in there and watch along so you can hear if they get a chance to answer it.
Absolutely. All right. Looks like our 4 astronauts are getting set up right now. Let's think. So we have. We can talk about some of the extravehicular activities that they've been doing, some of the spacewalks as well, but a little bit about our crew. Randy Bresnik and Joe Acaba and Paolo Nespoli have been there before. For Mark Vande Hei, this is his first space flight, so we'll get to talk to him about his experience being a newcomer. Actually, 3 of the astronauts we've talked to on the podcast before, Randy Bresnik, Mark Vande Hei, and Joe Acaba, all each individual episodes to share their experiences of what they've done aboard. Paolo Nespoli, this will be the first time talking with him, so that'll be a pleasure as well. And he shared some fantastic imagery of Italy and just different parts of the Earth, so can't wait to see what we're doing there. So let's connect with Mission Control Houston and talk to our 4 astronauts. Again, send your questions below on Facebook Live.
Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, we're ready for the event.
JSC PAO, please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Gary Jordan and Megan Sumner in the Public Affairs Office. How do you hear us?
Gary, we got you loud and clear. Megan, good afternoon to you too.
All right. Well, this is an absolute pleasure to be talking to all 4 of you today. I thought for sure I'd at least get to talk to one astronaut, but thank you so much for all 4 of you taking the time to talk to us today. So a lot of you have been on the podcast already, so again, welcome back. But today we're going to be doing a live event, so we really wanted to bring in some questions from social media and hoping you can answer those real time. But just to start off, because there are 4 of you, if you can just sort of give a quick introduction to all of you so our listeners kind of know who you are.
We got Expedition 53 Space Station Commander Randy Bresnik.
Expedition 5253 Flight Engineer Paolo Nespoli from the European Space Agency.
And Expedition 53 and 54 Flight Engineer Joe Acaba.
Expedition 53 and 54 Flight Engineer Mark Vande Hei.
That's awesome. Welcome to all of you. Thanks for being with us today. So we'll start with Comrade and Paolo. You guys have been up there the longest. So just how's the mission been going so far? What are some of the highlights?
I mean, certainly highlights for us were getting to work with the previous crew and the Space Ninja, Peggy Whitson, learning from them to be able to take over and run Space Station when we had our new crew show up for Expedition 53. We got to have a Dragon come up here and bring a whole bunch of science that we got to work with for a whole month. Certainly the past week has been really exciting because we've done 2 EVAs that have really returned the station back to good configuration with a robotic arm and some camera work and preparing stuff for robotic tasks in the future. So we've got a lot of stuff going on inside and going on outside, and so it's been a really exciting expedition so far, and we still are only about halfway through.
Well, nothing much to add to what Comrade has already said. I mean, we are doing a lot of activities here. It's always crazy. Like you can wake up in the morning, start working with something and spin around and work with some science and then spin around again and, work with the robotic arm. We've been doing almost all of it right now. We have, 200 more activity, 250, something like that. I mean, and we are doing all of them.
Fantastic. So today, I'm sure there's a lot of different topics that we could talk about, but really wanted to focus on astronaut photography today because you guys have such a unique perspective of the Earth, and you get some time sometimes to go and take photos of the Earth and maybe just kind of watch the Earth go by. So I guess since Comrade, you're holding the mic, if you want to share some experiences from just looking out the window and just kind of what that feeling is like, what it's like to watch the Earth go by.
I mean, it's really humbling because it's such a beautiful thing, and there's so far, but so few of us have had a chance to see it. And you don't look at the Earth and come not be changed. You certainly feel a part of the Earth. You realize that every experience you've ever had, every person you've ever known is down on that little blue marble. And when you see the curve, your mind knows how big the Earth is. And you realize that when you go around it in 90 minutes, you're back to, essentially the same spot. And the fact that we can do that and see that, you just feel compelled to share it. I'll hand the mic over to Sabo over here, because he's only been up here, about a month. But to get his impressions on what it went from, seeing it for the first time to now translating that into photography to try and share that with others.
The thing that impressed me the most when I first looked out the cupola to see the Earth was how close the recognizable features of the Earth seemed to space. For example, seeing Italy, and in the same view, seeing the blackness of space, it makes it seem like everybody on the Earth is really, really close to space without ever realizing it. From our perspective, there's just a thin layer of atmosphere that all of humanity is living in, and outside of that is space. So it's impressive to me how close we really are all to what we see as outer space. From a photography perspective, I think that's an important perspective for everybody to have. So my favorite thing to do is to try to capture those pictures that show both the space and places that we recognize and call home on the planet.
Absolutely. And Comrade, I know you've shared some, just the perspective of the Earth compared to some other images, being on the Earth too. And those are an absolute pleasure to see. But I know we have some actual questions coming in from some of our listeners right now.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can't even imagine what it's like to actually see that view in person, but next best thing, of course, is to be able to see it through pictures and videos that you guys are taking, and the whole world really appreciates that. We've got some awesome questions coming in. Lots of people are interested in photography in space, and you guys on the space station. So Jace on Facebook wants to know, there are so many cameras on the space station. How do you decide which camera to use? And can you tell us a little bit about the equipment you do have up there?
Yes, so we do have, for still photography, we essentially have a Nikon camera. Right now we have several D4. Each one of us gets his own, plus we have a couple placed strategically. Some of them are dedicated for special photography, like macro photography. We need to do a lot of macro photography for equipment here. Some we're just dedicated to, take... There was a micro shot, right? Try one with the telelens here. Some like this one we really use when we are pointing at Earth, and we have some windows that have a special capability of letting us taking pictures with this lens, and then we also have a red Dragon camera that we use for cinematography. We have video cameras that allow us to take HD photos. I mean, I would say that from a point of view of cameras, lenses, setup, well, we are all set here. We have everything that you can imagine. It's just what is missing a little bit is the time, because it takes time to be there at the window. It's not that you just go there and you can take a picture and leave. If you want to have something that really makes sense, you need to have to be there and stay there and understand, because it's a very quick changing environment here. You have to think that we are flying around Earth at about 4 miles per second, and things change really dramatically and really quickly. And not only that, you don't always pass over the same place with the same conditions, actually almost never. So all the conditions change continuously. The sun, the cloud coverage, the seasons, the colors, the moon makes a lot of changes during the night. So it's been a quite interesting time here in trying to take all of this armada of equipment that we have and try to make it do what we want to do. Not always happens, but somebody will get really great things.
Yeah,
sometimes.
it sounds like there's a particular technique to take the absolute best pictures that you can. And from what you're saying, you have to be there for quite some time. And this is just something that I've always been interested in asking, but I'm sure the cupola is just a hot place to be on the space station to get those photos. So how do you share your time, and who gets to see who gets to go in the cupola?
Well, Paolo's the biggest, so he always gets the first. He gets the first go. You know, there's a lot of time in the day, but we're really busy, and so if somebody has an interest, they know something's coming up they want to see, they let us all know, and we respect that and let them have that space. But sometimes things might come up in the middle of the night, so you know, it's at times where we're all in there because something is so cool and we all want to see it. And sometimes you're in there by yourself just enjoying it, and sometimes you don't take pictures. I'm not the greatest photographer, so I just enjoy going and looking out the window. But you know, every now and then we wrestle for it, but we make it work.
Nice. All right. This one's for Joe, too. For you, I have to ask from Facebook. Jessica says, my first graders would like to know what your favorite part about space is. Joe was my middle school teacher, and now I'm a teacher. That's pretty cool.
Wow, that's very cool. Hello, Jessica. Glad that you're following us. There are so many cool things about being in space. You know, one of them is, of course, floating around. These guys are cool, and the relationships that we form are really, really cool. So I would say, you know, being able to do this and just kind of hang out in any direction you want, you kind of feel like a superhero. So that's pretty cool. But again, looking back at the Earth is simply amazing. So, Jessica, I hope your first graders get inspired to keep studying hard, studying the STEM fields, and hopefully they'll be doing more than we're doing today on the space station, and maybe they'll be visiting other planets. So, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Joe. And I just have to mention that, you know, she mentioned in that comment that you were a former classroom teacher, and you're up there. Following you, we'll have Ricky Arnold, who is also a former classroom teacher. And as part of that, we're really talking a lot about education and how it relates to the space station. So you can go look up STEM on Station, and there's a website out there, and educators can find a lot of cool resources there.
Absolutely.
All right, I got another question on Facebook. This is from Jace. Were you able to operate professional cameras before becoming astronauts, or did you learn about photography during training?
I never touched a professional camera until I became an astronaut, and that's been one of the really neat opportunities about being an astronaut is the very fancy cameras like the red camera that Paolo mentioned. It's a pretty impressive array of equipment and great trainers to help us learn how to use them.
So Sabo, I mean, you've been up there, this is your first space flight, and you have a unique perspective being a first-time flyer, but especially I was watching you on your spacewalk, and you got a couple moments to, during the spacewalk, look down at the Earth. So can you sort of describe that experience?
It's hard to take it all in. It's so massive. It's everywhere. The things that stuck out in my mind were seeing at night, seeing flashes of lightning that went on for about 5 minutes. The bright sunlight, it was very impressive. In fact, I'll never forget when on the very first spacewalk, when Randy opened the hatch, the airlock just lit up because of all the reflected light coming from the Earth into the airlock. And the airlock's a very confined place. It's well lit, but it's not lit like the sun. And so it changed the feeling in the airlock dramatically when that hatch opened up, and then it really felt real to me.
That's awesome. All right, another question. Colin on Facebook wants to know if you guys take space selfies up there. Maybe you got to take one on your spacewalk.
Yeah, I just posted something from our last spacewalk on Tuesday with the space selfie, and tried to explain it to people, because you got these big inflated gloves on and you're trying to take this camera, and it's like if you went to your oven and grabbed your oven mitts and then grabbed your camera and tried to take the selfie. That's what it's kind of like in the spacesuit, trying to do that and line it up and feel for the button and get the shot. So you end up trying to squeeze it a few times. Hopefully you see maybe the shutter actually took the picture, and then you come back inside later on and go, hey, did I get anything?
amazing. Hey, so Paolo, we were kind of looking at some of your photos on Twitter, just the ones that you're sharing, and I see a lot of amazing pictures of Italy. But one that really stuck out in my mind was a picture of Madagascar and the logging going on there. Just from the perspective that you see of the Earth, what sorts of ideas of human influence do you see from 250 miles above the Earth?
Well, when you come up here and you look out of the window, and most of the time you see ocean and clouds, and then sometimes you even have difficulties on seeing the actual ground, the continents. And then little by little you start acquiring this acuity. You start seeing details, and at the beginning the human presence is not so evident, and then it becomes more and more and more evident, up to the point then when you go there and it's night, you essentially see the planet lit up, or the continents lit up like a Christmas tree. And some of the places in Europe, in the United States, the presence of the human beings, it's incredibly. And then you start focusing on other things, like you see rivers, you see how these are shaped, you see how things have changed, how as human beings have tried to model nature according to our needs and not ourselves according to the needs of nature. So and this change becomes really apparent there on that picture that you are referring to. You see essentially all the red dirt that is washing over on the ocean, not anymore kept by the forest, by the plants there in Madagascar. And this is so evident. It's really clear from up here that we are a major force into this planet, and we are changing nature. Is that good? Is that bad? I'm not sure about it. We probably need to pay attention on what we are doing if we want to keep the environment as it is today or yesterday.
Wow, that's really interesting. Similar to that, Natalie is asking if you've observed a change in color of the sunrises and sunsets due to the wildfires across North America, or maybe if you've been able to see any of the wildfires.
Yes.
We've seen the wildfires that were going on in Oregon and Washington last month. Unfortunately, the way our day cycle works, we're not going over California, where a time where we're typically looking outside during daylight. So none of us have really seen the Northern California wildfires that much yet. You can see certainly the smoke obscures, the look down, but haven't seen any changes to the overall atmosphere or the color of the sun, because it's just not that much particulate when you're looking at on a global scale.
So, comrade, kind of similar question. Recently, again, we were looking at a lot of the photos that you're sharing on social media, but recently there have been quite a few hurricanes that have hit the United States, Puerto Rico, a lot of the Caribbean islands, and you shared your perspective of that view. The pictures can tell one story, but just from your perspective, what was it like seeing it from the space station? The hurricanes.
Certainly the formation of weather can be a beautiful thing, and hurricanes have their own shape and do amazing things with the clouds. But it's when you realize the destructive power underneath it, it ceases being as beautiful. And certainly the first one for us was Hurricane Harvey, that went right over our families and our homes and our friends, and mission control down there in Houston. And so that was, you say too close to home. Well, that was at home, so that was too close to home for us. And so then the parade of hurricanes after that was just disheartening, because there were just so many people affected and so much devastation that we were taking pictures to hopefully help the researchers that are using those to figure out how hurricanes form, how they continue to manifest themselves, what we can do to protect ourselves. And then it was taking pictures afterwards, high resolution photography, mapping the areas to show where there was flooding or destruction that we didn't know about at that point, because there still wasn't communication or camera crews that were able to go out and picture stuff. So it was an unfortunate project that we ended up doing, but hopefully the work we did up here translates into some science, and we're able to translate into actual practical stuff that'll help people in the future.
I think it did. It's such a unique perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Seeing the hurricanes and the flooding and all of that from space is just really outside perspective that you just can't see when you are right here next to it. So it's very interesting. And similar to that, Natalie wants to know if you could talk to us about the wharf rack. What types of photos do you take from there, and how to use photography for science?
Yeah, so we have various projects that we'll do, and actually the wharf rack is right here beneath us. It's one of the best windows that we have on the space station. It's very well protected, so very pristine, and we can get some really cool photos. Unfortunately for us, it's usually covered up, so we don't get an opportunity to use it too often. But there's a lot of science that goes on. I know when I was here last time, we had the Earth Camp project going on, where middle school children, school children were taking photos and learning about those different parts of the world. We were also using it for agricultural purposes to map different things. So it's a multi-purpose window, and it is just a very unique perspective that you can get from here. And then you can put the cameras at different angles. You can, do the different times of the year, different times of the day. So it has a lot of flexibility. It's pretty cool.
There's also, I know there's an experiment that's been going on with analyzing the spectrum of meteors that are falling towards the Earth, and using diffraction gratings with the lens. So there's some really interesting science that can come out of photography.
So Sabo and Joe, both of you have been educators in the past, and Joe just being a middle school teacher, and Sabo, with at West Point. But is there sort of education perspective that you can do from sharing your view of the Earth, or maybe some other experiments you're doing on board the station that you can use to share with others?
Well, I think, as an educator, one of the most important tools that you can have is sharing experiences and real life experiences. So as much as we can do that to help teachers that are out there and provide them more tools to do their job. Since we've been here, it's been nonstop. It's kind of like the beginning of the school year, where you're kind of getting on your feet, getting the ball rolling. But then we had Dragon, and then we had 2 spacewalks already. So, to be honest with you, that's the kind of experience that we want to share. And hopefully by doing that and by recording that, whether it's with photos, video, we can share that experiences with teachers who can then share that with their students.
That's awesome. It's so interesting to so many of us down here, so we appreciate being able to hear about the awesome work you guys are doing. I have to mention, Comrade, I'm getting a lot of comments on Facebook about your shirt. People really love it, so I had to tell you that. Joseph wants to know what's the most amazing photo you took. So does anybody have a favorite picture yet so far?
It's easy, relatively easy up here to do time lapses, which means a lot of photos, and they can go good or totally bad. I mean, I've done 1,000 pictures completely wasted. Thank God it's not film anymore, and electrons don't cost too much. But I got a couple of time lapses pretty good. The one that I think was probably the best is one of the aurora in the north. So it was aurora borealis, and I don't know that night what happened, but the spikes of the aurora, the colors toward the ground, and the shadows went all the way down under us, and this was, to me, was incredible, all that sequence of pictures.
And I think, Paolo mentioned earlier about the Earth is ever changing. For me to pick out one after just the few months we've been here is impossible. It's every day there's, one or two that go, wow, that was just so amazing. I'm so fortunate to be able to see that. And that's a lot of the stuff that we're trying to post to share with you guys, just because every day is full of amazing pictures. And my folder of amazing pictures from space keeps growing, daily.
I'd say my favorite photo so far is one of, frankly, Italy and the Alps. That I think Comrade drew my attention to it, got me to look down during the spacewalk, and I snapped a couple pictures. The camera did a lot of great work for me because all I could really do in that situation was press the button, and the pictures turned out great. Really brightly lit Japanese module of the space station in the foreground, and Italy and the Alps in the background.
Yeah, and if I can just add, probably one of my favorites was taken just a few minutes ago, and Comrade and I had a conference that was scheduled with some our flight directors looking at the upcoming spacewalk, and I asked him, where are we right now? He's like, I think that's, South America. And I said, well, is Puerto Rico going to be coming up? And he's like, wow, there it is right there. So, we grabbed cameras right away, and it was a beautiful day. I know people are still recovering over in Puerto Rico, so hopefully I can get these pictures out and they can see how beautiful their island looks from up here, but it was pretty cool to take that today.
Oh, good timing. That is awesome. We can't wait to see those pictures, and I know the people in Puerto Rico will be really, really anxious to see that. All right, so we've got a couple of questions about the exposure times on your cameras. Can you guys talk a little bit about that?
Typically for daytime Earth obs, we're shooting a lot of times shutter priority, and we're shooting for 1 over the focal length. So if you got a 400 millimeter lens like this big monster, you're shooting, 1 over 400, and letting the camera take care of the aperture. Nighttime is certainly different. Depends on whether we got moon or we don't. At that point, we're setting up the cameras on arms so that we're not jiggling them, like a tripod on the ground. And we're shooting anywhere from, second to 2 second up to even, Paolo was shooting this week 1/10 of a second because it was so bright with the moon over the ground. So you kind of adjust for the conditions to be able to get the shots, on the time of day.
Great, thanks. All right, Jessica is saying, hi from Chicago. Can you recall a time where you saw something from up there that was impossible to be captured on camera, or something that just doesn't do justice on camera that you wish to share?
It's really interesting because you never know what you're gonna get, and actually you never know what you're gonna see to start with, or more or less you can predict, but the condition changes so drastically that you can wait for the whole day for a pass over Italy, for example, just to discover that it's completely covered by clouds. You don't even see where it is, or the opposite. Or you're doing something, you're there doing exercise. We have the cupola right there where we're doing exercise. You're there doing a set of something, and suddenly an island appears out of the blue and has incredible colors. I just lost the question. What was the question? Yes. So there are a lot of things that cannot be. The camera cannot translate, and because it's very difficult to see the light. For example, I find it very difficult to take picture when the sun goes down, because there is this huge bright sun there, and you're trying to capture something else and you cannot do it. So when there is this in space, there are huge contrasts between the full day and the full night. There is nothing in the middle there, and it's very difficult to transition. For example, when we do a night time lapses and we set up the camera for night, as soon as we get the sun, just a little bit of sun out, it's totally washed out. And I would love, for example, to show this transition as we see it with the eye that adjusts continuously, this transition from night to day. This is something that I still haven't figured out a way to do it. Maybe we'll think about it and we'll work on it.
Well, Comrade, that kind of makes me think of, I know very soon, I think on October 23rd, you want to do a sort of around the world in 90 minutes and then kind of share your perspective of a great pass over a lot of populated cities and various features of the Earth. Can you talk about what your plans are for that, what you're going to do over those 90 minutes?
Well, it's not just me. It's just going to end up being a crew project, and the thought is to show everybody on the ground what it's like and the features that capture our attention during each minute of those 90 minutes of one revolution of the Earth, whether it's day or night. And ideally, hopefully people are engaged, and then they can then add to the project and the conversation what was going on the ground at that moment themselves, and create this kind of, moment in time where we circle the globe and what was the world doing at that moment. And so we'll be trying to take those pictures. I think we haven't quite settled on a date yet, but yes, it'll be after we finish our last EVAs, and something that we hope is a global project that'll include most of the world's population that we can get in a single pass, and really showcase one revolution of our planet.
Can't wait to see what you have planned for that. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast today and share your perspective of Earth. It's just so unique. Literally no one else on this planet has that perspective. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that. And I know this is the end of the day for you too. So again, I appreciate all four of you participating in this. So just want to wish you the best of luck on the rest of your mission, and Godspeed. Can't wait till you guys get home.
Thank you very much, Gary. We'll look forward to the next time we get to talk to you. And ready, break.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
Thank you to all the participants from JSC-PAO station. We are now resuming operational audio communication.
How about that, Megan?
That was amazing.
4 astronauts. We got to see their perspective of the planet, and I know we were throwing some images. Those were actual images that they took while they were actually, some of the still photography that the camera they actually showed while they were up there, but then some of those time lapses that Paolo was talking about too. Absolutely, just such a unique perspective.
Yeah, it's so cool to talk to them and to hear a little bit about their experience, and of course you can see all those pictures on their social media sites, and just amazing pictures they've taken.
Yeah, let's go through them. So who can we follow on the station?
All right, so all 4 of those guys we just talked to are all on Twitter, so you can follow them all on Twitter. Comrade is at AstroComrade. Joe is at AstroAkaba. Sabo is at Astro_Sabo. Paulo is Astro_Paulo, and you can follow all the astronauts at NASA_astronauts. And also Comrade and Paulo are also on Instagram. So if you like Instagram, you can look them up on Instagram and see all their pictures.
That's right. Yeah, and we try to kind of consolidate that into that astronauts account too, so you can just see everyone's pictures. And they are some amazing photos. Again, these photos that we're sharing with you were actually, a lot of them were actually shared on their Twitter account, so you can follow along on that journey. And I know that each of them have a couple months left, so there's plenty of images to see over these next couple months. If you have a question about astronaut photography or anything NASA related, just go on your favorite social media network and use the hashtag AskNASA. If you want to ask us specifically a question on Houston We Have a Podcast, just mention us in that Ask NASA question. HWAP, I think, is the one we like to use for HWAP, just so you can limit on those characters, especially for Twitter. But if you're not following Houston We Have a Podcast already, shameless plug, I'd say go and subscribe on whatever podcast avenue that you listen to. I know we're on iTunes, SoundCloud, and NASA.gov. We just recently got on Google Play, so whatever medium you like to listen to your podcasts at. So I think that'll do it for us here. Again, if you have any questions, use the hashtag NASA, and be sure to subscribe to Houston We Have a Podcast, and we'll see you next time. Hopefully the next time we're on camera talking to space. I hope so. So subscribe to Houston We Have a Podcast. We'll see you next time.
Houston, go ahead.
Stop of the space shuttle.
Roger, 0G, and I feel
The
fine.
shuttle has cleared the tower.
indeed for all mankind.
It's actually a huge honor to break a record like this.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Never Houston, welcome to space.
Hey, thanks for sticking around. So I think we plugged most of the things that we wanted to talk about, all the astronaut accounts that you can follow and NASA astronauts and where you can subscribe to Houston We Have a Podcast, which if you're listening to this right now, congratulations, you did a good job. But this podcast was recorded on October 13th, 2017, thanks to Alex Perryman, John Stoll, Tommy Gerzik, Paula Vargas, Charles Plendaniel, Greg Wiseman, Bill Stafford, Josh Valcarcel, Rob Navius, and of course, Megan Sumner. Thanks again to Conrad Sabo, Joe Acaba, and Paolo Nespoli for coming on the show. We'll be back next week. Houston, we have a podcast. Welcome to the official podcast of the NASA Johnson Space Center, episode 16, Spacesuits. I'm Gary Jordan, and I'll be your host today. So if you're new to the show, this is where we bring in NASA experts, scientists, engineers, astronauts, all to tell you the coolest parts about what's going on here at NASA. So Alley-Oop on Twitter is asking if we can do an episode on spacesuits. Well, thanks for your suggestion, Alley-Oop. Let's do it. Today we're talking spacesuits with Les Padilla. He's the EMU hardware manager at the NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. And that just means he manages the hardware on those classic white spacesuits you see when you think about astronauts. We had a great discussion about how those spacesuits work, what they're made of, how they've evolved over time, and what they'll look like in the future. So with no further delay, let's go light speed and jump right ahead to our talk with Mr. Les Padilla. Enjoy.
T-minus 5 seconds and counting. Mark. All launch commit lights are correct. There she goes.
Houston, we have a podcast.
It's exciting. I like to explain to others. I feel like a kid in a candy store when they ask about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is all supposed to see the past, where it came from, and the future designs where we may be headed towards.
That's right, and that's what we're going to talk about today. All of those things. So
right.
I see you have like a large binder of notes. It's actually one page, it's fine. But yeah, so we're going to talk about it all today. So first of all, spacesuits. Let's start from like the overarching, like, what is a spacesuit? Why do you need a spacesuit? I think the closest thing that I've been described is like, think of it like a spaceship that's shaped like a human body. Is that kind of right?
That's a fantastic description right there.
Cool.
A lot better and a lot shorter than I could have said it.
Okay, so what are they? Why a spacesuit? Why do we need that? Why can't we just use a fancy spacecraft with like arms on it or something like that?
Yeah. So at some point, people before us decided we want to go to space, and then after that, they decided going to space wasn't enough. We want to go extravehicular, outside the space. Whatever spaceship it is, from shuttle to station to before those Mercury missions, all the way in the early days. And the space suits, purpose of it is to be a sort of, as you said, a miniature aircraft, but allows mobility, flexibility, maneuverability, so that a crew member can move around, whether they're doing work or just experiencing the environment out there. Like in the early days of the earlier days in Gemini, when they went out the door.
That's right, just white.
Yeah, absolutely. You got it. Just experiencing the environment. Did not want to come back in.
Yeah.
Or later days, even where we are right now with the International Space Station, where there's maintenance activities, and there is we've already completed the assembly, so it's maintenance activities where we're at. We need to be able to go out there and do more than just fly around and enjoy the scenery. We need to be able to turn bolts. We need to be able to pull out large batteries and put them back in. And so you need something that offers dexterity and yet protection from the very harsh space environment.
You know, we just saw that because we just did the spacewalk the other day, right? That was the second of 3 planned ones, and that was when they were putting on some of the shields and everything.
Absolutely.
And they did some robotic work, right, with the station's robotic arm. They took the pressurized mating adapter, moved it to a new place, but they needed human hands to actually like connect the cables and actually put on the shield. So it makes sense, right? You need the suits because there's just some things that just robots can't do, I guess, right?
Yeah, not yet, not where we are today.
Right.
You can't go to space without EVA.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so go back to Ed White and Gemini. That was first one was I just had it. I want to say June 1965. There it is.
There it is.
All right, yeah. He came out and they actually used like the air gun to move around, and super famous video of watching him just drift out, and he has the umbilical and he's got the air. So what was I gotta ask, what was the point of that air gun thingy? And then why do we not see anyone use those anymore?
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
And so there's probably people wiser and more experienced that have extra details on that, but at a high general level, it's just directional control. So you're out there in space, there is, we say no gravity. There is some gravity, but it's microgravity, very low, and for all intents and purposes, you're free falling. towards the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so unless you're holding on to a handrail or your vehicle itself, you will continue to float in the gravitational pull that circles the Earth and begin to bring you down. So as soon as you go out that door, you've got to have a way, it could be a tether or a rope to pull you back in, but a way to maneuver around the area you want to go. And so the air gun provides a small propulsion capability to navigate.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. So, okay, they're going out and they're using the air gun, but now I guess they have, it took them a while, right, during the Gemini, that was kind of a lot of the point of the Gemini program was to figure out how to do stuff like this, right? And how to do space rendezvous and how to do spacewalks. It took them a while, right? So that was Gemini 4 was when Ed White came out, and then it wasn't until Gemini 12 Buzz Aldrin had put in some procedures for neutral buoyancy laboratory training, where they actually trained in the water to see how they can move around, because everyone was getting sort of tired when they were going out because they didn't have the procedures yet, and then they finally nailed it for Gemini 12, right?
Yeah. Yes, spacewalks are tough jobs. The astronauts are just amazing the way they do work so seamlessly, and as trained professionals, they make it seem easy. But inside those suits, because I've seen the suits come out, there's a lot of sweat in there. There's a lot of hard work that goes on for those astronauts, and it is not easy. And as you said, training on the ground is pivotal to be able to make those activities look seamless on orbit.
Yeah, I'm totally not following the script right now, but I mean, so the MBL training that they do it in the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, super big pool. Yes. They have one-to-one scale mock-ups of the outside of the International Space Station. So when they actually go up there, and they, in the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, they trained in a spacesuit pretty much, and so they know exactly how it feels and where things are, and they know how to move from place to place and use proper tools. Because once you're out there, like, you got to know kind of what you're doing and what to expect, because you might encounter some hurdles, and there have been some hurdles in the past.
There have been, absolutely. On that Neutral Buoyancy Lab, I mean, you're right, they actually train in a spacesuit that is almost exactly like the ones they fly in. Small little differences, like the white backpack, which is the engine of the spacesuit, the primary life support system. In the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, it is just a hollow shell, and we have umbilicals that, long hoses that supply the air and the power to the suit.
Right.
And the tools will have things that are changed on them to make them more neutral buoyant, so they'll float in water and don't sink directly down to the bottom of the pool. Mm-hmm. But overall, it is, as you pointed out, just like the flight hardware, and the suits are very similar to what they use on orbit, so they can train and be prepared. Because as you noted on, there is no go out the door and, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing here. Let's go in and plan it another day.
Figure it out. Oh, I can't do it. I guess we'll come out again. Because, it takes a long time, right? I mean, I was listening to Shane the other day, because he just landed a couple days ago at the time of this recording. And he was saying, it takes hours of prep work beforehand, right? Like 4 hours. They got to pre-breathe. They got to do all these things, put on the suit. And then they go out, and it's another 7-ish hours that they're out there. Then they come back, and then they have a 2-hour, debrief. I mean, that's a long day. He called it one of the most challenging, especially physically and mentally challenging things about flying space.
Yeah,
I can imagine, and especially, I mean, that's what they train for, right? In the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, they do 6-hour runs or something like that. Kind of the same. They do some prep work beforehand, but they get used to it, and they do a lot of that training.
So I've never been, obviously, out the door in space. I've never been an astronaut in that aspect. But Gary, one of the best ways that I've, I guess, can describe what you just said is, have you ever gone skydiving?
I have, one time.
Yes, then you know. So the stimuli, when you make that decision of, all right, I'm about to get out of a perfectly good airplane, and you go out, just everything going on, it is, the first time you go, it's very hard to concentrate.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of good with that tandem thing, the guy telling you, look at your altimeter. But imagine free falling like that for 7 hours straight while having to do maintenance work on the space station and watch, your display control module on your EMU and listen to people on the ground and inside the station. And that's just a shadow of the difficulty, the job that those guys do.
Okay, well, when I went out the door for whenever I went skydiving, my legs went weak, and I had the guy strapped to my back, and he had to push forward to the end of the door and actually push me out. He did the whole instead of we're gonna go out on 3,
that's
1, 2, and then we went out. So I was totally weak, but I can't even imagine, because my heart dropped on that first run, and then it was thrilling for a while. But I mean, everything happened so fast. And now, like you said, take that and then stretch it over a super long period. I can only imagine. Okay, so let's take a step back and let's go back to kind of where I was originally supposed to go. But talking about spacesuits, and first of all, why do you need it? You know, you need the dexterity, obviously, but there's a human aspect to that, right? You can't just, you know what, something's broken on the outside, let's just go out the hatch and go torque it, what am I saying? Torque it with a wrench or something and fix it. You need, like you said, you hinted at life support a while back with the backpack. So what's it about? This may seem a bit obvious of a question, but what's it about space that the human body cannot just go out and do tasks in?
Sure, and I think most people could tell you that space, it's a dangerous environment, but why is it? As we're getting at, well, the spacesuit provides the capability to regulate temperature. In the low Earth orbit, as we call it, where the International Space Station is, temperature ranges during EVA days can swing from negative 148 degrees, so that's 148 degrees Fahrenheit below zero, up to 248 degrees. And those are estimates. They can be higher or lower, but that's a huge window that the human anatomy was not designed to work within without protection.
I feel like Houston, Texas can get up to about positive 248 degrees, but I know it's not even close.
But not negative 148 though.
No, not even not even 148 to me. But you're right. That's intense. So how does the spacesuit protect from that, from the extreme negative and positive temperatures?
Yeah, so there's a lot of planning up front in choosing days that we go EVAs, we call it extravehicular activities, spacewalks.
We try to stay away from those acronyms, but yes, spacewalks.
We choose special days that have the least impact, more habitable conditions, a better way to put it. But at the end of the day, even on the best days, temperature swings when the sun's looking at you to when the sun's behind the station are large swings that can be 100 degrees. And so that's where the spacesuit comes into play. And the spacesuit was designed to work in these environments. The outer layer is white because it reflects heat. Little simple things like that.
Okay, now you know why the spacesuits are white.
There you go. Whereas if it was black, it would absorb the heat, get a lot hotter quicker, make it hard for the performance of the suit and the individual inside. The multiple insulation layers on the suit itself. There are 7 layers of insulation within the outer layer of the spacesuit. And without getting into details, those are specifically to reflect heat and protect the crew members and keep in the proper environment heat that's necessary inside the suit.
Okay.
So it may be hot out there, but when that sun goes behind station, it gets very cold. That crew member wants a certain amount of heat kept within that spacesuit.
I would think so, yeah.
Absolutely.
Negative 148 is pretty cold.
But lower levels of that spacesuit is the bladder itself, and that gets into one of the next important aspects of the suit is providing an oxygen environment.
Right.
You've got to be able to breathe in space, and there is a 100% oxygen environment inside the suit. And as Gary knows, and we talked about I think briefly before, 100% oxygen environment is not natural.
Right.
It's not what we experience down here in ambient or on atmosphere pressure, where we get was it 78% nitrogen?
Nitrogen, yeah, and a little bit of carbon dioxide, just a tiny bit.
Just tiny bit. But when the lower pressure inside the suit pressure is 4.3 psi. When we go on spacewalks,
and that's about the pressure we feel here on Earth.
The pressure we feel here on Earth is 14.7.
Whoa, okay, so a little bit lower.
So almost a third, almost close to a fourth of that.
Okay, so what would that feel like? What's the next comparable thing of what 4 psi would feel like to like us here on Earth?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, hard to compare.
That's a tough one because I've been inside of a suit, so I know what it feels like, but I haven't been inside something else that has that 4 psi of pressure that I can do a 1-for-1 comparison of. I would say putting multiple gloves on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, multiple, so it's really strenuous on your hands.
It absolutely. Okay. When you're out, compared to a near zero pressure environment like the space is, 4.3 it's fatiguing. You have pressure on your hands, your body to move. You have 4.3 pounds of pressure over all of your body that you're working against.
Pretty stiff.
That is.
Yeah.
Compare that to the Russian Orlan, their suit, it's 5.8 psi. That's even more difficult.
Wow.
You compare that to some other space suits that we've looked at in the past that are even higher pressure, and you can see why it gets we need low PSI. And so 4.3 is not perfect with zero resistance, but it's a nice sweet spot that our crew members are able to work. And those that have ran in both the Russian suit and the American spacesuit have said, yeah, it's a lot easier, this 4.3 PSI.
Okay.
Yeah. But that drives us to why the oxygen's at 100%. At that lower pressure, we need the 100% oxygen.
Oh, okay. So that's how you counter, we're in the 14-something PSI here. So
lower
in order
oxygen concentration.
Lower oxygen. Okay, that makes it. And that brings us back to the pre-breathing that we kind of alluded to earlier.
Yes,
you need
sir.
to kind of purge your body of nitrogen.
That's
why?
right.
Okay.
That's right. Otherwise, the oxygen toxicity is the concern if you don't go through that pre-breathe protocol.
Okay. All right. Wow. Awesome. That explains why you need the pressure that you do. Okay. But I guess if you were to drop it any lower, it would be a little bit hazardous to your health, right? Like 4.3 is probably the sweet spot.
4.3 is a sweet spot with what our current spacesuit is certified to. You can adjust it different ways. I mean, it's kind of like if you change the pressure, now you got to play with the oxygen. You got to play with what is the suit capabilities at that level. 4.3 is the perfect sweet spot for what this suit is certified for.
Ah, I see. Oh, which is doing work on the outside of the International Space Station. Cool.
Yep.
Very cool. So, you're outside. We alluded to the fact that we're in low Earth orbit, right? It means we're in the microgravity environment. Tiny bit of gravity, not too much. Is it fair to say a little bit of atmosphere too? Just like tiny
bit.
Yeah, that's why we need to boost the station every once in a while. It's like a tiny little bit of drag. But how much are we protected from the Earth's, I guess, magnetic sphere? How much do we have to worry about radiation at that altitude?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely a great question, and it's a great concern.
Yeah.
There's a reason that crew members are limited for how long they can stay up on the International Space Station. That's one of the players, and there's the health themselves. Radiation, I guess the most high-level way to describe it is subatomic particles that are supercharged. We get from the sun, we get from outside our Milky Way galaxy, and that can come in and they just tear right through your DNA. And that can be acute if there's large doses of radiation, which fortunately aren't a concern where we work in the low Earth orbit. But over a long-term exposure, it could be chronic effects that when you rearrange the DNA could lead to cancer or other diseases. So it's very serious. We have a team dedicated to radiation, making sure we protect our crew members. The spacesuit is designed to provide some level of protection when they're out there for that limited spacewalk in the International Space Station. The space station itself is also designed to protect the crew members from certain levels of radiation that we get from solar wind from the sun.
Okay, all right, yeah. So I guess that the suit is designed for what for that purpose.
For that purpose of limited spacewalks.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, so how is that different from other, I guess, extravehicular suits? The suit itself has evolved over time, right? But I think it's, the technology is sort of adapted from 1970s technology, and then they just made it a little bit better, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have, we can go right through them. You have the, all the way back from the Mercury suits. The first ones we went up there with inside the Mercury, and those were completely designed for, hey, the crew members are staying inside this vehicle, but in case we have cabin depressurization, we need the guys to have a suit so they can exist for hopefully a period of time to get the cabin back pressurized. Those were early suits. Even step before that, we had pressurized suits for our for pilots or balloonists that were going high altitude.
Right. Yeah, and we still do, right?
Absolutely.
We have pilots over at Ellington Field here in Texas that wear those pressurized suits for the WB-57s, those high-altitude planes.
Yep.
So I guess, are they technically in space at that altitude? I think they are, right? 60. Is it 60 miles that is like you're technically in space?
You're getting beyond my knowledge here. I don't want to get lost. Someone may be listening.
You hear things, but yeah. But I know they do wear the suits, and they have to, and they have to do the whole, like, same things the astronauts do. They have to pre-breathe and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so
that's where spacesuits started from. That was the first stepping stone, was high altitude flying.
Yeah. So I guess those Mercury suits that you were talking about, is that where kind of the launcher and entry suits kind of went towards? Was if whenever you're launching in a spacecraft, you have to wear a specific suit in case of that, right? Sudden depressurization. Is that like the reason?
So absolutely, the Mercury suit was we stand on the shoulders of those who designed that Mercury suit.
Yeah.
And the next suit with the Gemini, after that, and the next one after that, and all the way to the Apollo. Yes, absolutely. Do those provide data and insight towards the ACES suit, or the launch and entry suits that we're now working on for next vehicles?
Oh, right.
So yes, data from those suits was pivotal to make our current launch and entry suits. One of the most, the Gemini suit that came after the Mercury, that was the one that Ed White went out EVA in.
Yeah.
That's the most polarizing, or one of the most well-known ones that you'll see in a lot of the old movies with the aluminized nylon outer covering where it's all shiny and a lot of zippers here and there.
Chrome.
Yes. Every movie that ever had science fiction related to it, my parents watched, I remember seeing the shiny suits.
Yeah.
And so that's Gemini.
Yeah.
To set the tone on that. And the reason for the shiny suits was they were, in that time, we had a lot of data, but the big concerns were thermal and radiation, as we were talking on earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see that aluminized material on that Gemini suit early on, because they really wanted to make sure, hey, our guys are protected. So they went all out. As we got more data and we figured out what we needed and where we needed to grow in and where we didn't need so much, you saw that aluminized, shiny aluminum outer nylon. It went away.
Right, yeah. Now we see the white suit. Yeah.
You got it.
All right, yeah. And then we saw the famous white ones like on the moon, walking on the surface of the moon.
The Apollo suits.
The Apollo suits. And then now we have the white suits on the International Space Station.
That's right.
All the time. So kind of going through a little bit of the features of those suits. I've always wanted to know, like whenever you look at a spacesuit, first thing I think your eyes go to is that shield, that gold shield. What is that?
Yeah, so I think the term is goldized.
Ooh,
yes.
Goldized. I like that.
That gold visor is basically very fancy sunglasses.
Cool.
So the visor itself is a Lexan material that you'll find in some of your household goods. It is specifically to protect the crew members' eyes from the sun.
Okay.
And so there's a gold sheet that goes over that. It has great characteristics in blocking harmful UV rays and other rays that would come from the sun and help the astronaut continue to be able to work in that spacewalk environment.
Mm-hmm. But they can kind of pull it up right during nighttime.
Absolutely.
It's like sunglasses, right? If you walk from the outside to inside and it's suddenly dark, you take your sunglasses off. So it's kind of like
sure. They got a cool knob on the side of the helmet. You just flip that visor up, and what's really neat is there are opaque visors on the side that we rarely see in pictures.
Right.
Most pictures you want to see the face, or at least the cool gold visor, but there are completely opaque white visors that can cover, maybe if the sun's on your right side, you can block on the right or the left or halfway down the front. And then the gold visors you pointed up can completely cover your face if full sun, or partially, or just completely remove it altogether. Slides back behind the helmet bubble underneath.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm thinking about the picture of, I want to say it's on Apollo 17, right? Where you have I think it's Gene Cernan, posing, and then he has two of those opaque visors down.
Now I'm with you. Yep.
Yeah, and he's got the Earth behind him or something. Yeah,
got it.
I'm thinking about that picture right now. So if you don't know that picture, go look that one up, because that's what he's talking about with those opaque visors. It's like those white shields that come down on the sides.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and the Apollo suits are the first suits with that famous fishbowl type helmet. And what I mean by that, if you look at your earlier suits, they have round visors that are fixed, but they're more oval or smaller in shape, so it's limited view. When the Apollo suits, and you'll see it on the current suits on the station, you have the full fishbowl helmet, so you can almost have a complete view side to side in front, a little above, limited below by the neck ring, but a much bigger field of view from the Apollo and the current suits we have today.
That sounds like the perfect reson to do it, right? So they learned. They said, I would like to have a bigger field of view, so they designed a helmet. And okay, now I can see a lot more. So let's think. I think one of the things that I always want to ask is, I'm sure you're outside doing a spacewalk for hours, right? Your nose has to get itchy, right?
Man, my nose would get itchy.
How do you, what if you just feel like an itch? Like, where do you go?
Yeah, so
Don't they have like Velcro or something? Like hard Velcro they can strap their nose on or something?
So there's something called a Valsalva. It's a strange name, but it's kind of without getting too deep into details, it's a foam block that's fixed inside the helmet on the neck ring.
Okay.
Now, the purpose of this item that's called the Valsalva is for when you're going through pre-breathe, when you're pressurizing the suit before going out the door, like when you're going up an airplane, one step back and the cabin starts pressurizing, your ears can pop. That's uncomfortable for us flying on a plane, and especially for someone inside of a spacesuit. Only they can't grab their nose and blow the air out to equal the pressurization. So they have these Valsalvas that can fit on their nose, and they can kind of serve the purpose of blocking the nasal passage so that they can make sure their ears don't pop. So you can swallow or you can push down your nose on this block to equalize the pressure in there. And all that long story to say, if you can reach your nose down there and scratch on that block, that could be an option. Otherwise, you're out of luck.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even think about that. Like, I was thinking about, itching your nose, but of course, like, what if your ears have to pop? Now you have a thing to do that too.
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
Like you said earlier, it's through these generations of suit evolution they've learned along the way with great crew feedback of, hey, we need this.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, you've been doing space. The first spacewalk was, we said in 1965.
That's right.
So you have a lot to learn since the mid 60s to now, obviously. So what about again, thinking about you're outside for that long, when do you eat? Do you eat beforehand, like right beforehand, like before or after the pre-breathe? Like, I would just get so hungry. I have to eat like every 2 or 3 hours.
I'm with you, Gary. That's probably the only reason we're not astronauts. We've got to eat every 2 or 3 hours.
That would, honestly, everything else I qualify
That's
for,
right,
obviously.
Same thing
but
here, of course.
I have to eat every 2 or 3 hours, so I can't.
So I would say that's crew member specific. Where you see is, I don't know about you, but when I would run marathons, I had friends that could eat a burger before a marathon with no problem. That's not this guy.
Not this guy either. No way.
And so, same thing with crew members. You have some that, they have a lot of time earlier on where it's recommended do not eat past this time. And there are some that'll eat right up along that barrier, and there are some that will stop eating way before that. Because naturally, when you eat, not only does it supply energy to your body, but it also causes normal bodily functions as well. Which leads into another discussion.
That's right. Let's go into that one. So 7 hours again. You're out there for a long time. You gotta go to the bathroom. What do they do?
Yeah, that's a call that you have to answer. And so,
right.
Unfortunately, as we said earlier, when you're out in a spacewalk, you can't just say, hey John, I'm gonna head inside and hit the John. You're stuck out there for the duration.
Oh yeah, and every moment is planned, right? So
that's right.
You can't. You have to just do your thing.
Yes, absolutely. And so there is no toilet inside the suit. They have an acronym would be the MAG, and it's basically an absorption garment.
Is M maximum?
You got it.
All right.
You
maximum.
You got it.
Bring that absorbency up to maximum.
So it's basically a very large Pins diaper.
Okay.
That they'll wear during these spacewalks. Now I can tell you, anyone who's been inside the suit has zero desire to use that diaper.
Yes, I can.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
But every single one of them is glad it's there if they get that call.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I could totally see that. And there's water too in the suit in case you get thirsty.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Same thing with the marathon. You've got to have hydration.
Right.
And so they have what they call disposable in-suit drink bags. Sits right here on the chest. Actually velcros to the liquid and cooling ventilation garment, which is how they get the coolant inside the suit. Over 300 feet of little tubes run over their entire body that can provide warm or cool water that the crew member can adjust as they prefer on a temperature control valve right on the front of the suit.
It's like a space version of air conditioning.
That's right.
Yes.
Little thermostat right there. Just a
thermostat.
twist knob instead of digital.
I'm too cold. I'm just going to turn the heat up. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, sitting on top of that is that bag with water.
Yeah.
And they'll take out 32-ish ounces of water as suits them.
Okay. All right. So they have a lot of the things that they need. Obviously, you have to plan for that if you're going to go out in space for that long. That makes a lot of sense. So let's see. how much do they weigh? That's a big question, right?
Big question and big weight.
Yeah.
So every suit, this EMU, or here I am with acronyms again, the spacesuit that our crew members use, our U.S. crew members use, is, it's designed to fit from the 5th percentile up to the 95th percentile of men and women.
Oh.
And so with that, you have certain components that are interchangeable and do not change. What I mean by that is like the hard upper torso. Picture the torso of the suit.
Yes.
You've got 3 sizes, and the majority of crew members might use a large, for example, and they share that large between. But all the pieces that connect to the suit, the arms, the gloves, the boots, those can adjust in sizing. And so if it's a smaller size, it's going to weigh less. If it's a larger size, it'll weigh more. But overall, the average weight of a spacesuit itself is about 270 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty heavy. Well, on Earth, right? So it's got some weight. How would I guess 300 pounds in space would be not so hard to move around, right? I guess you're in the microgravity environment, but like we were talking about earlier, it's that pressure. It's the pressure inside where you have the gloves and you're trying to squeeze your hands, and that's kind of the hard part. Yeah.
Yeah. Our what can be our friend at time is momentum. Or inertia, and that can be an enemy at times as well when you're in that micro environment.
Mm-hmm.
So crew members are trained specifically to go slow along space station. If you get 300 pounds moving, it can be difficult to stop. Now they can stop it, but it's just wasted energy.
Mm-hmm.
So they go very slowly so they don't get that large mass moving too quickly.
I would assume it also helps with conserving energy too, right? So not only do you make sure you can have controlled movement and you're going the right pace and you don't fly everywhere. Using that limited amount of energy because you're carrying everything with you, right? When we're talking about the neutral buoyancy laboratory, you have umbilicals that hook up to all the oxygen, all the everything you want, but you only have a limited amount with you because it's like backpacking, but in space and with a lot more technology.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, so you really have to conserve. You have to make sure you have a limited amount of oxygen, so you have to breathe like slowly, make sure your heart rate's not going up, you're calm when you're doing it. Yeah. Okay, because I remember listening when we were on the EVA, doing the EVA, like I was saying, the spacewalk. Yeah, there I go with
your acronyms.
Right? We were doing the spacewalk just a couple weeks ago, and they were saying, you got to make sure you take your time and when you're moving around, because you're out there for plan 6.5, it can go up to 7.
That's right.
Like the last one was 7 hours 4 minutes. It can go up to 8, and I think the longest spacewalk ever was almost 9.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It was like 6 hours 52 minutes or something like that.
It was close. That's
it's a long time to be out there, and you got to make sure you're conserving that energy. So let's talk about. You briefly mentioned that this is what the EMU is meant to do, and we were talking about you're certified to do this, that. What's happening now to design future suits, especially not because the International Space Station is going to be there for the next, hopefully, decade, I think. But after that, we're talking about deep space. We're talking about planetary exploration. What needs to change about the suit to meet those needs?
Yeah, and so we have a lot of data on what needs to change, but there's a lot of data that we don't know yet.
Right, because we haven't
been there. That's right. And so the pioneers with the high altitude flying found, hey, my suit is only designed to go up at 5,000 feet, and now I'm at 40,000 feet. I think I'm reaching that envelope. And you need new materials, you need new vehicles. We're going to find out the same thing with the suit. What we do know is that the current spacesuit that serves fantastically at the International Space Station is not a planetary suit. Mobility will be an issue. It is not meant to walk in a gravity environment. Things we'll have to look into is even the Apollo suit, which was lighter, a little more flexible, had some design characteristics to allow the crew members to stoop down and pick up rocks where the current suit couldn't.
Right.
Even that suit, there was learning opportunities there where they didn't expect the amount of dust. Dirt that would come in and get inside all the seals. And it sounds minor, but cleanliness is it can be it can have catastrophic results if you don't have a certain level of cleanliness.
That's right. They're tiny little
That's right.
things.
If they get inside sealing surfaces, you may have a leak, and a leak is something that you do not want.
Right.
When you're out doing a spacewalk.
Yeah.
So there are The short answer is our current suits are certified for the low Earth environment, from radiation requirements to thermal requirements to you really don't need mobility in your lower half. You just need your upper body able to move.
Makes sense.
Remember, your hands are some of the most important tools that you have on space station. Your feet and legs are near useless. They get a little bit of use, but not a whole lot. Well, planetary suits, we're going to need legs and feet. We're going to need to use them a lot.
Definitely.
As you were hitting on earlier, at the lunar activities were only for a couple of days. But if we go to Mars and if we land on Mars, we're going to be out there for a lot more than a couple of days. So we need a suit that's robust enough to support those requirements.
Okay, so I'm sure you've seen the movie The Martian, right?
I have.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's a good movie. So in that one, when we talked about a planetary suit, they had those like skin tight kind of orange things. They looked super cool.
Awesome suit.
Yeah, they looked awesome. But then, when they were up orbiting Mars and they had that whole, I don't want to, in case anyone hasn't
Spoiler
seen
alert.
it, which if you haven't seen it, what's wrong with you? You need to see it. But they had, when they were orbiting Earth, they had the EMU, right? They had that big white suit, and then it got a little tighter, skin tight. Is there a chance that maybe a planetary suit would be skin tight, or do you need those extra layers?
So, yeah, great question. It depends on what planet we go to.
Okay.
I mean, if you hit on earlier that there's a little bit of atmosphere in the low Earth orbit that protects the station to a certain extent and causes drag. Well, on Mars, there's atmosphere as well. Whereas other planets or other moons around other planets that maybe in the future we look at going to will have near zero atmosphere. That's where you need the multiple layers, like in our EMU right now. So when you have that very minimal atmosphere.
Okay.
The Mars, we should have more of an atmosphere. What you want there, where we may get to more multiple layers, is if the technology is not available to have robustness in a skin-tight suit, then you'll get the multiple layers. Because obviously you don't want a suit that's going to wear out and get a hole sooner. Then you're in trouble out there.
Right.
But absolutely, those skin-tight suits, like Matt Damon had in The Martian, and there's even been some played around with here in the U.S. that we've done some studies for advanced suits. Those are by far preferred in the aspects of mobility. You can move around in those a lot easier without getting pain or abrasion from multiple layers rubbing on you. You mentioned backpacking earlier. Well, if you had a couple pairs of jeans on at one time, and then a number of shirts on, and then a backpack, you're going to get blisters, and there's going to be pain in place. You don't want to feel that. That's the trade-off for, if you get a suit with a lot of layers of insulation and whatnot, and then you try to walk distances.
Right.
That's going to be very uncomfortable.
Yeah. If they do, they'll probably have to do short EVAs, but
that's right.
Or spacewalks.
Or a lunar rover.
Oh, that's where the rover comes in. So I've seen they have one here at the Johnson Space Center called the SEV. It's like an analog. They see, this is, and it looks very much like the one that was in The Martian. In fact, The Martian kind of copied us, but that's fine. But
okay with that.
In the back, they had suits on the outside.
Yes.
There's a reason for that, right?
Yes.
And that was that dust thing that you were talking about. A little bit.
Yes, that absolutely plays into it.
Okay.
One of the cool things about the current suit we have today is that just a large percentile of individuals that can fit into it. Maybe not perfectly, but they can get inside that suit, small or large, and go out and do an EVA. Whereas the other suits that are fixed in sizing, I'm going to use, it's obviously the Orlan has been great for many years, not hidden on it all, just showing some differences.
Right.
You can't change the hut sizing. You either have a 37-inch to 44-inch chest, and you can fit in there, or you can't. And so there's great things about that. One of the bad things about the EMU suit, where those is that you don't get a lot of shoulder movement. And it's a lot longer to get in when you have to put the suit together. On the ground with tech support, we can get them in there in 45 minutes. When they're on orbit, it's difficult to slide up inside that hard upper torso. All right, now I got to put my gloves on and helmet on. Now I got to put pants on.
Yeah.
I explain it in 20 seconds. Those guys are taking over an hour with help, professionally trained people to get inside that suit.
Right.
So you hit on that suit on the back of the vehicle. It opens up inside that vehicle. You can crawl into the suit from inside your vehicle without having to depressurize the whole vehicle, close that hatch on the suit, and then walk right off the back of the vehicle.
Sweet.
Pretty neat.
That's awesome, but you're right. And then you have a size thing to consider, because you don't have that adjustable features of the EMU that's on station right now.
But since the EMU is designed, there is technology that's allowed us to very quickly adjust the size on some of those fixed suits that formerly we couldn't. So that's not an issue today, although it was in the 80s when we designed the EMU.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. That is so cool. Okay, one more question, and then I'm going to let you go. So we talked about the Martian in those skin-tight suits,
Yes.
but there was one scene in there that he was kind of floating around, and well, okay, I'm not going to do any spoilers, but basically he had to.
I hear spoiler.
Okay, if you haven't seen The Martian yet, turn off the podcast. I'll give you 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so he pokes a hole in his glove on the outside, and he's gonna propel himself out
Yes.
of the thing. Is that like a thing? Can that happen? I mean, it probably can't be successful like it was in the Martian, but is that like a thing? If you were to poke a hole, would you propel yourself?
So there's definitely some Hollywood aspects to that.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
Yes.
But yes, in theory, you have a pressurized suit. You've got 2 primary oxygen tanks, and then you have a secondary oxygen tank that holds, just in itself, about 6,000 pounds of oxygen. 6,000 pounds of pressure of oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a hole and you're pushing out air, even if it's a low force, it will get that body moving. Now, I can't tell you that it's going to fly you to a different spacecraft like in the movie, but it would be some level of propulsion, and it would help you out.
That is so cool. Yeah. All right. Cool. I just love that movie. That's why I keep bringing it up.
It's a great movie.
It's a good one. Well, I think that's all the time we have. Les, thank you so much for coming on. This was so interesting, but I'm sure we did not hit all of the points about spacesuits. There's a lot more to this
My
topic.
huge binder wasn't used.
So if you're listening and you do have questions, make sure to submit them. Stay tuned till after the little ending music credits here, and then we'll talk about where you can submit some ideas, and maybe we'll do a Spacesuits number 2 episode. Who knows? I'm sure there's more we can talk about. So thanks again, Les, and stick around for more on
Thanks for having me, Gary.
Spacesuits. No problem. All right.
Houston, go ahead.
Stop of the space shuttle.
Roger, 0G, and I feel
The shuttle has cleared the tower.
Became a feast for all mankind.
It's actually a huge honor to break a record like this.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Deborah Houston, welcome to space.
Hey, thanks for sticking around. So today we talked with Les Padilla about spacesuits. If you want to know more about everything spacesuits, just go to nasa.gov/suitup. We got a nice reference there for all different kinds of spacesuits, including the EMUs, mainly what we talked about today. Otherwise, you can go to nasa.gov/ISS to learn about everything going on aboard the International Space Station. And just this past month, in October, we had 3 spacewalks where astronauts were going out in the EMUs to conduct spacewalk and maintenance on the outside of the station. You can also find all this information on social media, so just go to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You know this, right? We talk about it all the time. International Space Station accounts on whatever social media platform you like. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. On Facebook, International Space Station. On Twitter, it's @space_station. And Instagram is @ISS. And in the beginning, you can see that Alley-oop actually suggested the topic for this episode. And we're listening to everything you have to say. So just use the hashtag AskNASA on your favorite platform, and we'll submit an idea for maybe something you like to hear about, or a question you'd like to answer, or maybe you'd like to focus an entire episode on one specific topic. So we'll make sure to look at those ideas and find the right person to bring on the show. Just make sure to mention it's for HWAP, HWHAP, Houston We Have a Podcast. This podcast was recorded on April 13th, 2017. Thanks to Alex Perryman, John Stoll, and Matt McKenzie. And thanks again to Les Padilla for coming on the show. We'll be back next week.